Welcome back to In Conclusion, We Have No Idea. I'm Camille,
I'm Liz. Hey.
and we have no idea what we're doing. That's the gist of this.
So, get started on having no idea.
None whatsoever.
Right.
Anyways, did y'all do theater in high school? That's what we thought.
That was a yes, we're sorry. If that was a no.
We're sorry.
No, I mean, like, good for you. We're sorry, but, like, also good for you. Probably for the best.
You missed more than one type of drama.
And that's probably for the best, honestly. Based on, our experience in lovely theater. Although, I think, Camille, you were 90% unaware of everything going on when we did theater.
It's because people refused to tell me things. It was like, I was like, whoa, what's going on? And Caitlin would be like, oh, no. You don't need to hear this. You don't. It's too much for you.
Well, I don't know if it was, like, too much for you, so much as just, like...
There needs to be at least one person who's not involved in it.
Yeah, we didn't want to, like, ruin you, and I say we as if I was really involved in any of the drama. I just kind of watched, because everyone would tell me everything. I didn't really get involved. It just kind of was like, yeah, that's certainly happening right now, I guess.
My relationship with the theater department, I feel like, was pretty much people would be having, like, a super, like, dramatic, traumatizing moment in the trauma room at lunch, and I'd walk in and say something stupid like, "What's up, my ghost? I hate my life." And then you've got, like, three people who, like, genuinely hate their lives just sitting there, and then I would go, quote wall.
Right.
That was my relationship with the theater
for
department.
me was taking naps in the drama room and then having our drama teacher not do anything about it and just kind of let it happen. Because
the drama teacher.
We were all tired. Like, Theater 4, I don't think we really learned any drama stuff. We just sat there talking for like an hour and a half. Not saying that was a bad thing. It was like just like a collective therapy session the entire time. And like, I stand by that because senior year, everybody got senioritis by like October.
Day 2.
Like, we were already sick of it, and it was like maybe like a month into school. I mean, Theater 3 was fine, like, but that was because our other theater teacher made us actually like work in that class. Not saying that either way is wrong. It was just very different.
Two different teaching styles.
But the thing is like, in Theater 4, we didn't really learn stuff. We just had like projects that we were like vaguely supposed to be working on the entire year at like some point in time. Like, it was like, we would be assigned this project and given like a 3-week time slot to be doing it. And then for like the rest of the class periods in between the assignment and then when it was due, we didn't actually do the assignment in class. We just kind of sat there and was like, yep, we should be doing this assignment. But did you hear about so-and-so today? That was a lot.
Yeah.
It wasn't like gossip so much as it was, yeah, like, my dad left the house for 3 weeks, and, like, we don't know where he is, but, like, we kind of know where he is, but, like, he'll come home soon, I guess. You know what I mean?
The thing that gets me about theater kids is like 90% of them seem to have, like, horrible, traumatic backstories, and then there's the other 10%, who are me and Caitlin, who are just like...
You're not wrong there. I mean, Caitlin, I'm not saying she didn't get involved with drama, but...
She got involved, she just didn't have a whole... I I don't feel like she had a whole lot of
She-
emotional baggage.
Well, she didn't have at the beginning of the year, well, junior year, didn't have all of that like emotional trauma, but every theater kid has at least like one thing from their childhood that they're like, this is my tragic backstory. This is why I am the way that I am. For me, it was just like, I'm just an amalgamation of mistakes, and I'm just kind of vibing.
See, I don't have a tragic backstory, and I think that's why I give my D&D characters such tragic backstories, because I feel robbed for not having a real-life tragic backstory. Me and my therapist talked about it. It was interesting.
See, I give my D&D characters, like, really, really opposing backstories. It's like one of them, the parents were alive, the family was alive, they were a loving family, and the other one, everybody's dead. Everybody.
Yeah.
Nobody is around. I'm like, yeah, this is fine. I'll just, like, it's on a scale. So I went from, like, 0 to 100. Maybe I'll do, like, a 50. You know, like, half the family's dead. Maybe just kill off, like, the dad or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still making choices. But, yeah, theater kids, I mean, the tragic backstories kind of, I think, made them the way that they... Why do you think all villains in, like, movies and TV shows and stuff are so just, like, extra?
Yeah.
They're just, like, more angry theater kids. Really. They have the flamboyant... A theater kid is, like, one more minor inconvenience away from becoming a supervillain.
Which is weird, because that's how I am now that I'm almost 20. It's like, that's how I feel all the time. I'm like, it's just one customer yells at me, and I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take over the world. But I wasn't like high school, which is weird.
You're like one more Karen away from taking over the tri-state area.
Yes, I am one minor inconvenience, one tragic backstory away from becoming Dr. Doofenshmirtz.
I think that's every theater kid, though. Like, if Dr. Doofenshmirtz didn't become, like, an evil scientist, 100% would have been a theater kid. He has the musical chops. He has backup dancers. He choreographs those backup dancers. He does it all. If he had just, like, directed his energy into something more artistic, I'm convinced that he wouldn't have been an evil villain, and he would have just been a Broadway actor.
Yeah, but he didn't.
No, he didn't. I'm gonna have a discussion with... I'm gonna write a letter to the creators of Phineas and Ferb and ask them if Dr. Doofenshmirtz would have been a theater kid had he not gone down an evil path, but, you know, that's not the topic of today. The topic of today is, so as I was getting around, Theater 4, at the end of the year, we had to direct a show for our center stage showcase. And there's a lot happening there.
Center stage was always wild because it was other students that got cast in the show. So the idea was,
students directing students, like seniors directing juniors and sophomores.
And the occasional senior.
Yeah, and someone thought that was a good idea.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could possibly go wrong if we put a bunch of theater kids in charge of other theater kids? I don't know. It could... I mean, to be honest though, sometimes it worked. Like, you had at least one or two shows every year that didn't have any problems at all. They were fine.
All the rest of them were train wrecks.
Exactly. Well, not trash. I mean, like, there was a scale. It was either, like, horrible fire, what happened here, we thought you could do it, and then we were wrong. And then there was, like, this show was fine. I mean, it was okay. Like, nothing really bad happened, but it wasn't, like, really, really phenomenal. And then there was, like, that one or two shows a year that were like, I actually kind of enjoyed that.
I think the big thing was just that drama just always happened. Like, so I was kind of an anomaly because I didn't start taking theater classes until my junior year, so I didn't get to be in the class that directed the shows, but I got to act in a show every year. But starting with sophomore year, I don't remember any drama going on in my show, but my role in that show was literally to walk across the stage, sit on someone, and then walk off stage. That was my entire role.
For sophomore year, my show wasn't so much of a disaster. It was just like, it had a little kind of catchphrase that would just get stuck in your head. And then it's like permanently ingrained into my soul now. So it was, this is a test.
Yes.
And so all you think of, this is a test. A what? A test. A what? A test. Oh, a test. And you're just like constantly repeating that to yourself in your head. And so by like week 3 of rehearsals, my entire cast was like, if we have to say this is a test one more time, we're gonna lose our minds. And my friend was in that show with me, and he got contacted by another show that year, because this was the whole drama that happened that year, is they had one show that had like 3 people drop like a week before like the final performance. Just so dumb, because you have to sign a contract if you're an actor that says, yes, I will commit to this show. Yes, I understand that this is a student-led show and that the resulting show affects the grades of my fellow students. You have to have a parent sign off on it. You have to have... there's just like so many things that you have to sign off on, and these 3 people dropped this show right before the final performance. And so my friend had to go fill in. So he was doing 2 shows at the same time and trying to balance rehearsals for those. And it was difficult because he was not like a major role in our show, but like he had like important lines, and like they were like cue lines for the lead. So if you're missing like the person with the cues, you're not gonna have like any movement in the show. It was just... So that was the drama sophomore year for my show. It wasn't... I wouldn't necessarily say it was like kind of a disastrous year, but it was...
I think we were both just sophomores, so we didn't really get much of a window into the drama. I'm sure there was more drama.
Oh, for sure. Just based on how I know how Center Stage worked senior year, I am 100% positive there was a ton of stuff going on in the background that we just didn't even know about.
Yeah, but we were just happy to be there. We were little sophomores. We still had a little bit of hope. We were like, we're just glad to be here. And
I'm just glad I got cast.
Which, you know, isn't much of an achievement, because pretty much everyone who auditioned for that showcase got cast, so...
Well, the thing is it's because there were so many shows. Well, when I say so many shows, the way that our theater teacher assigned shows was you had a couple of small casts, a couple of medium casts, and a couple of big casts. So you're talking 20 people in a cast. So that's 40 people for 2 shows with 20 cast members each. So you can get somewhere, what is there, like 8 shows per showcase? So that's probably like 60, 70 people cast in just like a single showcase.
Yeah.
So it's just a lot of corralling and making sure that everybody's doing what they need to, and you're on schedule, and you have to make sure that everybody's on schedule, and it's not just... It's a lot, I will say.
We did.
So
in junior year, we were in a dramatic show. Like, I mean, it was a comedy, but there was drama involved because you and I were in this show together. Remember?
Yes, we were in the show together.
Oh,
that was an interesting show. I got cast as an aggressive businesswoman, which, like, I can see it. But also,
Yeah. I got cast as a recently divorced woman who wore her pain a little too proudly, and that started a long trend of me being cast as a crazy, either recently divorced, recently dumped, or recently widowed woman. And I don't know why.
I think that was the second that was part of the long line of me being cast in things that portrayed me as an aggressive person or a psychopath or a combination of the two. And I have a lot of feelings about that, but that's for another day. Because typecasting is definitely a thing in theater. Like, directors will be like, I don't typecast. They 100% do. And we can verify that because we have a friend who looks like Jesus, and he always gets cast as a priest.
You know what? You know what we got? You know what? Yeah, typecasting. So that's for another day. That is for another day. But
right.
Yeah, so our show it was interesting because we had two directors, and I know for me at least they gave me like conflicting notes.
Like, that was my problem the whole time.
They're like, do it like this.
Yeah, and they're like, okay, more aggressive, and I do it more aggressive, and then the other director would be like, less aggressive, and I'm like, do you want it more aggressive or less aggressive? I can't be medium aggressive. You're either aggressive, assertive, or passive, and neither of you want me to be assertive. You either want me to. It was, ugh. And then the blocking for that. My blocking changed pretty much every single day up until the finals.
Yeah. And there was like this big chaotic scene at the end of our show, like where everyone was like crossing the stage or crossing through the audience at the same time. They reblocked that like every single day. I kid you not. And it was insane. And my problem with that show is back in the day, I'm a very comedic person now who can often deliver comedic lines without laughing. I was not when I was 16. I would laugh at my own lines because they were ridiculous and I thought they were funny. So I'd get yelled at like every day. But it's okay, because that eventually got beat out of me. That happened next year, which we'll get into in a minute, I'm sure. But
I had the main problem with, so at the very end of my scene with my very good friend, I was supposed to exit off stage and just basically like smack his ass so hard. And it made me viscerally uncomfortable every single time for so many reasons. One, because he was like one of my best friends, and neither of us are like that. Two, it was a romance show, and I am very much not, like it was a speed dating show. It was just,
I think it was actually called Speed Date.
It was, and so every single time we had to do that, I just had to apologize. I'm like, I am so sorry. And he was like, I don't even know what you're like. He told me, he's like, I don't even have an ass, so you're just like it's like hitting like a board. I was like, I mean, you're not wrong. And that was what always like gave me I was like, this is not, no.
At any point, did either of you think to yourselves, hey, maybe we should say that we're not comfortable with this? I don't know.
Well, the problem is like, it was like the very end of the scene, and we would have had to have changed lines to do it.
Oh,
and like blocking.
Yeah.
Because it was like an actual like direction in the show.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right.
And that's like one of those things like you can't really like change words for a show, especially if you had to buy rights for it, which for a lot of these shows in Center Stage, they had to get acquired rights to do them. And so you can't just change stuff in the script. You can like take out lines, but you can't insert your own thing. And so at the end of the scene, that was something that was in the script that you were supposed to do. So I couldn't have done anything else. It would have just been taking it out. But then at the point, like, it just didn't make sense, like, exiting wise.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
just
that's
based on
right.
everything, like, in the scene itself, it was kind of like, that was the, like, the punctuation, the very important punctuation to the end of the scene. So it was fine. Like, we got over it, but it we laugh about it now. I was like, there's nothing there. Like, I had to, like, make sure that it was not his back. You know what I mean? It was just ridiculous. But there was, like, actual drama in that show for real, though, from, like, the cast to the directors and stuff.
Yeah, because there was another girl who had absolutely no problem requesting that the entire show be changed over a penis joke.
Yeah, and it's like, the thing that pissed me off the most is it was perfectly fine until someone told her what the joke was about. She didn't even get the joke in the first place until someone explained it to her, and then she was uncomfortable.
And she was like, and then she, like, went off. She's like, I don't even know that I want my friends and family to watch me in a show so vulgar. And I'm like, so she's, like, threatening to quit the show if they don't, like, cut these lines out. And that was, like, this. Here's the thing, though. That character, the character in question who made, like, the innuendo, made several innuendos. Like, that was, like,
it was, like, the whole
character.
That was the whole point of the character to begin with. And of course, and it wasn't even like it was, like, the beginning of the show. We had already been rehearsing this for almost a month. It was, like, a couple weeks before the show was supposed to happen. And then she got the joke. I got mad, threatened to quit the show because of the joke that she didn't get. And it was like, you can't force someone to change all of this characterization, change all of this blocking, change all of these lines 2 weeks before a show goes on because you're uncomfortable by a joke that you didn't even originally get for the majority of the rehearsal process.
Yeah, and yeah. Because basically, it was like a domino effect. Once she got the one innuendo, she got every other innuendo almost in succession. So she's, like, texting the group chat. She's like, could we remove this joke? Could we remove this joke? Could we remove this joke? And finally the girl who was playing this part was like, at this point we might as well just cut my scene. Because
that's the whole point of my character.
And finally,
like, if that's the whole point, it's so dumb to just, like, and that's what I was going back to saying, is you cannot change words in a script. If you acquired rights to a script, you cannot change the words. You can omit lines, you can take out entire scenes, but you cannot change the words. And you can't add any words at all. So you can't change, I mean, obviously, like, slip-ups happen, and you might replace, like, an in versus there. You know what I mean? Like, small words that, like, don't really affect that. But if it's, like, changing words that affect the mood of the scene or the concept of the scene, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, the things that she was requesting would have changed the entire character, changed the entire scene, and like I said, you cannot change words in a script. So it was either we leave the scene in or we cut it out. And that's not fair to the girl who spent the last month and a half rehearsing a scene only for someone else who's not even involved in the scene whatsoever. She was not even in, like, even that kind of section of the show. She was at, like, the beginning and the end, and this was, like, solidly in the middle. She had nothing to do with the scene at all.
Yeah.
To have her be like, we need to change this is wrong. And then for her to threaten to drop because of it, it's also ridiculous because she signed a contract too.
Yeah.
And her parents signed a contract saying, we understand.
It was ridiculous. And I think there was another girl who literally showed up to the first and last rehearsal for the show. And the nice thing about our show, though, was each scene was like a one shot, so there were only a couple of like super essential scenes. So
Mm-hmm.
if a person had to get cut from the show, because they never showed up to rehearsal, we could have easily cut that scene and then just been like, okay, so now we're just going, instead of having this scene, we're just going to jump immediately to this one. Like,
Right.
I remember hers was like the very first, like, interaction. And I remember she never showed up to rehearsal, and I remember the directors were, because mine was right after hers, and I remember they said, if she doesn't show up, we're just going to jump right to you instead
Right.
of her.
Right.
And she ended up being in the show anyway, which I don't understand how that happened, because if I'd been a director, I wouldn't have tolerated that. I would have been like, look, you've showed up to one rehearsal. You've not blocked your scene. You've not done anything with this scene. So, you're out.
Yeah. Junior year was interesting because it was internal, it wasn't cross show. So instead of being the person who had a show that had to have someone fill in, it was we had issues within the show. And then, at one point there was like someone in a bear costume, and
That show was, it was just, I can understand why that show got picked, because it was a big cast, and because it was a relatively, like, inclusive show, but the and plots where it's like one shot scenes, as convenient as they are a mess. And they're rarely like good shows. It's usually
well, and they're hard because there's so many things moving around, and the way that we had center stage set up, it's just hard to have those kind of shows because there's so much going on. It just almost gets too chaotic,
it
and
it
there's too much going on.
it felt kind of like it was trying to be a farce, but it didn't work as a farce.
Well, the thing is so originally center stage shows are supposed to be 20 minutes long, max 25. With
Yeah.
like a 5-minute grace period under and over. Our original cut of that show, where we had everybody doing everything that the directors wanted, was 45 minutes.
Which was ridiculous.
And we had to figure out how to get everyone to talk fast enough, be understandable, cut certain parts of the show that weren't needed, cut other parts of the show, and just
make transitions faster. It was,
yeah. And so having that much chaos with relatively new actors, like a lot of them are sophomores, because the big shows, and we'll get to this later, big shows don't really get like, I don't know.
yeah, I know what you mean. The big shows, that's where they shove like
all of the sophomores and
all
stuff.
the sophomores,
like all
and
the
then
people who just kind of auditioned for the hell of it and not because they wanted anything.
Yeah, but then you've got the little shows that got like
the smaller the show, the more likely you're gonna have a better cast.
And I mean, senior year for me, I feel like was a bit of an example of that, because I was in a 3-person show, and that show was probably it's every year at center stage there were like two really really good shows, and the rest of them were kind of meh. And I feel like senior year, the 2 really really good shows were the show that I was in and the show you directed.
I also ruled my show with an iron fist, and my directing partner let me.
It was so good.
Well, and we'll get to this later. Like, I don't know if I've explained to you like the casting process for center stage. It's an interesting process, and honestly, it's like the most fair way that you can do it.
I understand it because I remember Caitlin was telling me about it as it was happening. Isn't it basically you're all like in a circle, and it's kind of just like each person takes a turn picking someone?
So basically what happens is, so you're sitting in a semicircle, and the directing partners sit together. You have your first choice, and so basically you go around the semicircle starting from the smallest show to the largest show. So once you go around the circle to the largest show gets to pick 2 people because then it'll bounce back the other direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like small shows get like their first person, then it goes around the circle, you pick your first person, and then large show picks 2 people because then the second largest show after the largest show gets to pick their second choice, and then you go back around the circle to the smallest show, and then it depends on how big the smallest show's cast is, if they need to pick 1 more person or like 2 more people, you know what I mean? It's just like you go back and forth until every show has their full cast.
Right.
And so obviously the largest shows are there for the longest, and at that point it's like you pick whoever.
Yeah.
Whoever's left, whoever is there. So when I directed senior year, so the directing partnerships are chosen by our theater teacher based on this little slip of paper where you say, this is who I can work with, this is who I refuse to work with. I think it would be a disaster. I hate that. Not that like I hate this person, but like I don't think it would be a good idea to put me with this person.
And honestly,
and so
hating that person could like be a very valid reason. Like I can't work with people I hate.
Well, it's even like it's like I hate this person, or like I love this person, but I don't think we'd be productive together. You know what I mean? Like you might say, I don't want to work with my best friend because I know we won't get anything done because we'll just goof off the entire time. That kind of thing. So you hand in this little paper with your 3 top choices for, yes, I want to work with this person, versus your 3 bottom choices, like, I will start a fist fight in a back alleyway if I get stuck with this person. Right.
Yeah.
So then you choose your shows after you turn in that slip of paper in. So everybody in the class says, I like this show, I want to put this show on for center stage. You present your show, you present your ideas, your sound options, your blocking, your set, all of that stuff. And then our theater teacher would go through, look at the shows, look at the people who would work best together, quote unquote, work best. Because you'll learn that not everybody gets what they want, or who they want, or any of that stuff. And she chooses a directing partnership, and then from that directing partnership, she chooses one of their shows. So my good friend and I, we got paired together, and we worked really, really well together. Because we just kind of had directing styles that meshed well together, because he was really, really good at blocking stuff, and I did more of like working with like the characterization and vocals and expressions and that kind of stuff. So they chose our teacher chose my show that I had presented, because I actually wrote the show. So I'm an author and and that stuff. And so they chose the show, they chose the directing partners, and then in like one day we get this letter, and then it's like in an envelope, and so you open the letter and it says, Dear Liz, or whatever, here is your directing partner, here is your show. Your show will be on this day and it will be the 3rd or 4th show or something like that. So, long story short, I got a really good directing part. I knew my show, obviously, because I wrote it. So, like, I knew kind of already what I wanted, and I had, like, a concept, and it wasn't just, like, a show that I, like, chose just offhandedly. I was like, oh, I like this show. Because, like, I actually was like, no, I think I could really pull off this show well. Because I fucking wrote it. So I knew exactly what I wanted. Right?
Yes. And it showed that you 2 worked really well together, because the show, like, it was a great show. It was well done. Like I said, it was probably among like the top tier shows that year. and it's because you worked well together, and it kind of, and you knew the show, and your cast worked together really well, and it just shows that your show, I mean, I'm speaking for you obviously, but it didn't seem like there was a whole lot of behind the scenes drama that went down with your show.
No, there's like we had a problem or two, but like obviously like not every show is gonna go perfectly smoothly the entire time. Like even the best shows, you have little hiccups here and there, and we had like one, like quote unquote major problem, but it got fixed almost immediately because we went across the proper routes and we did things that we needed to do. But there were directing partnerships that did not work, where one director would get steamrolled by the other, or they both disagreed, or they like worked fine together, but like their show wasn't really exciting. It was just kind of okay, or like a couple of directing partnerships had people together that like hated each other, and there are a couple of kids in that class that weren't beloved, and nobody really wanted to work with them.
Yes.
And so whoever got stuck with them weren't happy to begin with. So it was interesting because my directing partner and I, pretty much every day during center stage for Theater 4, we'd go into class and we were supposed to report like, hey, this is an issue we're having, so that like other directing partnerships can say, oh, we've had that issue, here's how we solved it. And every time it would get to my directing partner and I, we'd be like, our rehearsals are going really well. We don't really have anything to update you guys with. Don't know what you're looking for. We're just kind of chilling.
What?
But like you said, I had a really good cast. My directing partner and I really tried to make sure we got everybody we wanted. So our whole thing is we didn't tell anybody who we wanted in our cast. Because a lot of it was like, oh, the discussion was, oh, we want X person. And then someone would be like, oh, that'd be a really good person for this role in my show. I want them, actually. And so there'd be people that would get fought over. But my directing partner and I were like, that's fucking dumb. Why would you tell people who you want? Why give other people the idea about who you want to cast when you can just take them in the moment? Like, in the way that we had our casting set up, it was kind of like an immediate thing. And the whole concept behind the casting process was smaller shows get who they want. And I didn't have a large show. I think I had 5 people total in my show.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty good ratio of director to actor. That's like,
right.
What? 1 to 2.5.
Yeah.
It was a very small show. We didn't tell people who we wanted. We cast people who we knew would do really well in the role, but like anybody else thought of. And we discussed it really heavily before we even cast anybody. And so if someone from a bigger show wanted someone that a smaller show had claimed, you can fight it out. You can discuss it and then have to come to a conclusion who will take that actor.
Yeah, I did hear about that. I heard that the show I was in, one of the other actors, someone was like, oh, we kind of like this guy. And then my director, who is actually my best friend, was like, no, we want him to work with Camille. And everyone was just like, yeah, okay.
80% of the time, the smaller show will win. Because a smaller show has this card of, they're a lead in my show. And if that actor is going to be a lead versus a side character, they're gonna get the lead role instead of the side character role.
Which, yeah.
Like, that's the whole problem with having a large show, is you have so many characters, you really only get 2-3 good actors. Smaller shows get better actors because they have the trump card of they'll be a lead in my show. They'll have this amazing opportunity to really showcase their acting abilities. There'll be have more attention on them, and that basically works every single time. It's the end all be all. I will fight to the death. If a small show really, really wants to fight for their actor, they have that card that says they're a lead, they're not going anywhere. And usually our teacher would agree with the smaller show saying, this is a better opportunity for this actor to have a lead in a show versus being a side character in a chaotic show.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
For casting for Center Stage, my directing partner and I basically got everybody we wanted. Everybody. We got our perfect cast. We got people who we knew would be responsible, who were good students, who would commit to the show, who we knew would memorize their lines immediately. We made sure we got everybody we wanted. And I think it ended up showing because, you know, you have a good cast. I mean, you can even have shitty directors, but a good actor can pull off a lot.
Yeah.
Given shitty directions.
For sure.
But I don't think we really had like shitty directing. We had a knife fight in my show, so
you guys had to be good directors.
We had a choreographed knife fight to Earth, Wind, and Fire, Boogie Wonderland, and that was like
the greatest thing I've ever seen.
Just thinking of the concept of my show is ridiculous because there was that knife fight specifically to Earth, Wind, and Fire, Boogie Wonderland, and that wasn't even like the weirdest part of the show.
Yeah.
It was just like, because I told the leading woman, because she's basically the center of the show. I told her, I was like, you have to be funny, and she was amazing.
Oh,
but we gave her a few opportunities to improv, and I told her, I was like, okay, I trust your improving instincts. If you feel like you can get more laughs out of people, do it. And I think it was that directors relying and trusting their actors versus the same thing with the knife fight, the actors relying and trusting their directors to both keep them safe and to make sure that they are getting good directions that will be funny or be dramatic or just kind of don't be a shitty director and just rule. I mean, I ruled with an iron fist, and I make that joke because like my cast, it wasn't like it was hard. Like I'd tell my cast, I'm like, hey, be here at this time. And they'd be there.
Real. I feel like Center Stage of all the theater productions that happened throughout that whole year, and there were quite a few of them, was probably the easiest to pull off. Just because it was like it is a 10 to 20 minute show. You really just need to show up and get memorized and listen to your directors. It's not like, and since it was on a Center Stage like platform, there weren't a whole lot of like technical elements. It was probably the simplest show to pull off, which is why it's interesting that it feels like Center Stage was the source of like a ton of stress, and that might have just been because it happened at the very end of the year.
Yeah, I think it happened at the end of the year, but I think the other problem is it's easy to do right, but it's also very easy to fuck up.
Oh yeah.
Like it could go either way. Like it's really easy to do it really well, but it is also super easy to just slack off and not do everything that you need to. So when I say like I ruled with an iron fist, it's more like I made sure that we were all on top of everything and that we were all doing what we needed to. Like hell, I had one character in my show have 0 lines, but she was there every single day of rehearsals because I made sure that she felt important to the show, even though she didn't have any lines. She was still in the show. She was still heavily involved in everything going on, and she was a really good character too. Like, you don't have to be saying anything to be a good actor, be the center of attention. You don't have to be speaking to be the focus.
And that's actually like, I'm on an improv team now, and that is actually, that's like an exercise we do. We do this thing where lots of times in our improv group, we often feel like we have to be talking to be funny, or to be heard, or to be seen. But that can get very chaotic and distracting very quickly. So we kind of do this exercise where for 2 minutes at the beginning of the scene, there is no talking. You communicate, you like do everything through only action, and it really forces you to like make character choices other than just saying things. So yeah, you definitely be a good actor without saying anything.
And I told her, I when I handed everybody the scripts the first day of rehearsals, I said, listen, you don't have any lines, but I need you here all the time because you're important to the show, because you help add to the scene and bring stuff together. And I had people come up to me after the show and tell me that, you know, that girl was their favorite character because she just did little things in the scenes to add to them, to, you know, help other actors, like prop them up while also showcasing the fact that you don't have to have lines to be funny.
Right.
Like, she sat there before the dagger fight. She was sitting there having her own little dagger fight while other characters were arguing in front of her. And, like, it's like those little things in the background that kind of just, like, made it really lighthearted, even if, like, characters were having a fight.
Exactly.
So, like, that was my whole thing with directing, was trusting the actor's instincts, because if it's making them comfortable in the scene, usually the scene is better.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? While also understanding that, like, you need to give them directions if they need it. So if they ask for directions, give them directions. If you feel like you need to point something out, point something out. But at the same time, like, kind of let them do their own thing and see how it goes.
Yeah. And yeah, it was...
But I don't know if that's how you felt in your center stage that same year, because that was also a very interesting show.
It was an interesting show. And it was interesting in the fact that it was like, it was a Chekhov show, and it was a comedy, but you had to make it comedic. If you just read through that script, you could very easily read it as a drama. So you...
Oh, and that did happen.
Yes.
Originally, so in that directing partnership of Caitlin and the other guy, that was the other guy's show. But he originally thought it was a drama.
But
so Caitlin had to go back and recut the show to make sure that it conveyed the appropriate comedic factors.
Oh, if you'd done that show as a drama, it would have been horribly depressing.
It would have been awful. Like, I'm not even gonna lie, it would have been awful as a drama.
Because then it would have been like, just the premise of the show, if it hadn't been a comedy, it would have looked extremely abusive.
Mm-hmm.
And I would have not been comfortable. I don't think the other actors would have been comfortable.
No.
And the audience certainly would have liked it.
That's why Caitlin had to go back and recut it, because...
So it's a good
And
thing.
she also didn't like her directing partner either. She was very upset that she got...
Yes, I heard all about it. But it was very interesting, because I was cast as the leading woman, and she was very hard on me, which was because she's my best friend, so it was very weird that she was so hard on me. Like...
Oh, no, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all, because as much as she's like, ha ha, la 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 la, she takes her acting very seriously, and she wanted that show to be... She wanted it done well.
Yes.
So she wanted to make sure that everything was going according to plan, Otherwise, she was gonna be very upset.
And it was a little weird because it felt like she wasn't as hard on the other two actors. But like with me, remember how earlier I was like, I would break character a lot when the lines were funny? The reason that doesn't happen anymore is because one day, and I also couldn't make eye contact with people because I struggle with maintaining eye contact. I don't so much anymore. But what she did is one day she brought a squirt gun to rehearsal, and every time she caught me breaking eye contact or starting to break character, she'd spray me. She basically treated me like a cat. And
I did that. I did that with a couple of my actors for my show. So we had an issue where the leading woman and like basically like the other one. So the leading, she was a princess, was supposed to jump into the arms of the other one, and was so afraid of doing that I sat down one day. I was like, "Okay, trust falls." We did trust falls for about an hour and a half to make sure that she could do it. And I was real hard ass on our friend because she wasn't being aggressive enough. So every time she wasn't being angry enough, I'd just yell at her to be more angry and threaten her. I mean, we were good friends. She knew that I wasn't going to do anything to her, but at the same time, it's like, I need you to be more. So I understand because I did the same thing to our good friend as Caitlin did to you.
And it was funny because she actually pulled me aside one day, and she was like, "Do you feel like I'm being too hard on you?" And I was like, "No, I don't feel like you're being too hard, but it is confusing that you are being this hard." And she literally said, "It is because you are the heart and soul of this show. The other two can kind of do their own thing, and the show will still work. If you mess up, it makes or breaks the show." And it's just like, oh, that's a lot of pressure. But it was just that whole show was very interesting. I did have to kiss someone in that show, and let me tell you, that was an awkward rehearsal to have your best friend basically tell you that you're a terrible kisser and say, and just like reposition you and say, there you go.
Basically.
And you know what? Now, according to my boyfriend, I'm a great kisser, and you know what? I think credit Caitlin with that. I'm gonna credit Caitlin with that.
Although attribute all of that to her.
It was very funny because after we graduated, it's been a couple years since that happened. She told me she almost cast someone else in that role of the guy I had to kiss, and it was like this super attractive guy who was like a heartthrob, and I was like, I could have kissed that guy, and she's like, yeah, but it didn't feel right at the time. I'm like, I could have kissed that guy? And she's like, yeah, we regret it a tiny bit now, considering everything. And I'm like, I could have kissed someone else? And
yep.
It was a fun time.
I will say, though, you did get a standing ovation in that show.
Because of a kiss. That's true.
So...
True.
That was very much it, because that was like one of those things where like the whole drama department was like, yes!
It was insane.
But considering stuff now, a little awkward. But
yeah,
at the time,
it was, oh boy, I have never heard an audience scream more loudly. And it was hilarious because while we were standing on stage for that scene, he took much longer to kiss me than he had in rehearsals. And there was a solid moment. Me and Caitlin thought this at exactly the same time. We were like, oh my gosh, he's gonna chicken out. He's not gonna kiss her. He's just gonna like shake her hand or something. This is the moment. Because we kept it a secret from everyone. We didn't tell anyone what was gonna happen because we wanted shock factor. And so we were like, this is gonna ruin all of that suspense we've got built up. Oh no. And then it happened, and it was exciting.
Great.
And
I can verify as someone who was watching from the audience, it was great.
A couple of people started crying from what I understand.
I was cry laughing.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I fucking knew it. She did it. Right. It was So for the 2 nights, for me, that Monday night show, because I think mine was on the Friday night. That Monday night show, that was the highlight for me.
Watching. Yeah. It was.
Oh my god. Sorry, this is like weird and like really off. Well, not really off topic. Same thing, center stage, but like the performance nights and stuff. So my cast tried to give Tanner and I a gift.
Oh no.
For being great directors, but they were trying to get us in the same room because we were running around doing like a bajillion different things, making sure that everything was in line, that everything was okay, and that we were all fine. And they could not get us in the same room. One of our cast members come running up to me and they're like, hey, we need help with one of the wigs. And I'm like, I don't do the wigs. Like, that's like the other director's job. I don't really know what you're talking about. So I ran down to where they were getting changed and stuff. And they were like, we're having really big issues with the wigs. I'm like, hey, well, one of you go get the other director. I need to go and make sure like X is okay. And that was their whole plan, was we were having problems with the wigs to try and get both of us in the same room. But it ended up like they couldn't get us there until like after the shows had started. So we were all like standing backstage and they're like, so you two motherfuckers suck because we've been trying to get you a gift for like the past like 30 minutes, but neither of you have been in the same room at the same time. They're like, oh, whoops. Sorry. They also gave us matching directing shirts.
Aww.
Like, how cute is that? And it had our little show name on like where like a little front pocket would be, and they said director on the back. It's like the cutest thing. I still have it. And we wore them and we matched. It was really great. I did have to change though from the senior song. Ooh, do you want to talk about the senior song? And the showcase before.
Oh boy. Yeah. Oh boy. But I'm just gonna conclude with my show. There's a couple of really funny things. I think the reason that the show I was in ended up working so well was, like we mentioned earlier, blocking. Like, it wasn't about what we were saying, it was what we were doing. Like, there was a point where I ran off stage. I was like, I'm gonna go get a revolver so I can shoot you. And I ran off stage. I came back on with a rifle that I was holding upside down and very confidently said, I'm going to kill you now. And the idea was just this other guy who had like this big like epiphany that he was in love with me, which was weird. I don't know. Chekhov had a lot going on, I think. And so then this woman runs on stage, is like, I'm going to kill you. And she's not even holding the gun right. And, oh boy, just so many. It was funny, though, because my dad was watching this show, and at the beginning it starts out very dramatic, where this woman's just like, my husband is dead, and so am I. And people were, like, chuckling in the audience, and my dad was like, quit laughing at her! She's doing her best! And then the show kicked off, and he was like, oh, it's a comedy.
You're like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah,
oh.
But my poor father, my poor wholesome father, just thought that everyone was laughing at his daughter, and he was about to throw hands. But yeah, that was a fun show to be in, honestly. And it was nice, because I'd never gotten to, like, be a lead in anything. So it's kind of nice to have that, like, last big bang where I could be like, look, this acting ability is what y'all were missing. How does it feel to know you missed all of this? So,
right.
It was like my, ha, in your face, I am a good actor moment. And you know what? Kudos to Caitlin for making sure I got that.
Well, I'm glad I enjoyed watching your show. I didn't really get the best view of everything, mostly because I had to be running around backstage for stuff.
Yeah.
But from what I did get to watch, I had a really good time. I thought it was great.
It was a fun show. Kind of a weird show, but it was a fun show.
Center stage was weird because at this, like, on one hand, it's like awful and everybody hates it, but on the other hand, like, some of the things were really enjoyable about it and like nostalgic.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I don't know. I have mixed feelings about Center Stage for like other people's sake, because I know a lot of my friends didn't have a great time. They like don't like it at all and they don't like to talk about it.
Yeah.
But I can't say that I had an awful time and that my show was a disaster, because it wasn't. I had a great cast. I loved them. They were amazing. I had a good show. I felt confident in the show. And like, that's not even me bragging about it or anything, because I'm being overly confident. Like, I heard from people that they enjoyed the show, so it's just, I have mixed feelings about it. But I will say, there was like the senior song and the senior showcase before all the shows happened is like a whole other like disaster.
No offense, but every year my parents went every year, and every single year they said, I really wish they didn't have the senior showcase. They were like, senior song, that's fine, but the Theater 4 class getting up and making a bunch of inside jokes that only the drama department is gonna get, we could do without that.
Yeah. Yeah. That was the main problem that we were all trying to like avoid and stuff. But I don't know. Because it just, like, some of the things were fine, I think, and then some of the other things were whatever. I think the good thing, like, for the Theater 4 class our year, I think the thing that we did well in the senior showcase was when we had, like, the auditions for the rest of your life, which is basically was the opportunity for the seniors to get up and be like, hey, this is what I'm doing after I graduate.
Yeah.
Just, like, introduce yourself. It's like slating, so, you know, you say, hi, my name is whatever, and I will be going to the university of whatever after school, studying this, or I'll be going and doing this after. And I think that's a good opportunity for the seniors to be like, this is our final hurrah, here's our final moment, here's what we'll be doing after we do this. So I think there's like elements.
That was really good. I enjoyed seeing what seniors were going to do, but I will say, I kind of, and I know that it was like we were on a time crunch with that, but I do wish that the few seniors who weren't in Theater 4 had been given an opportunity to participate in that as well, because we were allowed to sing the senior song, but we weren't allowed to do anything else. And it was kind of,
I think the reason that we did that, though, the reason we did that, though, is because we did the rehearsal in Theater 4.
Yeah.
It was something we made in the Theater 4 class. So we had that rehearsed in class and everything, so just throwing in all the other seniors who weren't in Theater 4 would have been kind of difficult.
Yeah, which, again, I fully get, but that was kind of just like, I kind of like to...
Yeah, I can understand.
I understand completely why it went down the way it did, but it was kind of just like I kind of wish I could have gotten up and been like, I'm going here, and I'm be a librarian. Frick yeah!
I think we did, for that though, we also tried to make sure that we kind of gave a nod to like all of the other drama students there by like having Caitlin play our theater teacher.
Yeah.
And that kind of stuff. So, I don't know.
She nailed it.
Some years the showcase were better than others. I think our year we really tried to, like, on one hand, like, kind of make the jokes, like the inside jokes or whatever, but also try and have it be, like, involving the audience and, like, make it kind of funny. So, like, when we did, like, the thing of, like, the theater 1 through 4 and, like, the rehearsal, kind of trying to involve comedic elements there and stuff that everybody would get regardless of whether or not you've been in the theater department at our school.
Yeah.
I don't know how great of a job we did there, but we at least tried.
You attempted it. We appreciate it.
It was an attempt to try and involve... It was just kind of weird because the senior showcase is like, you want to do something for the seniors because it's like their last kind of thing. And, I mean, they directed the shows, but you don't see the directors.
Right.
You see the actors.
Which, I always appreciated the senior showcase, because I understood the jokes, and I understood, like, the perspective of being a senior in high school, this is like their last chance to like make their mark before they go on to bigger and better things. So I understood that. So it was like I did have mixed feelings when my parents would always say, I wish they'd cut that.
I think it was less for the parents of the actors and more for the parents of the directors and the other people in the drama department.
Exactly.
It wasn't, because it's like for the actors, these are the seniors that they had in their junior, or like they met as if they're juniors, they met these seniors when they were sophomores, and if they're sophomores, these are the seniors that they had in their drama department. So I don't think it was for the parents of the actors.
Exactly.
It was for the drama department that they were leaving.
Exactly.
That makes any sense.
It makes sense.
So I understand, like, because my parents said the exact same thing. They're like, I don't understand, like, the senior showcase. And then when I finally did the senior showcase, it was like, I don't really think it's for you, though. It's like the shows are for you, but the senior showcase is for
the
seniors.
Us. Yeah.
Because they did all this work for all 3 years of high school, and this is like their last thing.
Yeah.
So it's not for you, it's for them and their friends and their family.
Yeah. And
so, I mean, that's kind of how I saw it in the end, I guess.
Exactly. And then they also had the senior song, which was also kind of like our send-off, and that was something all of the seniors got to do.
Yeah, that was something all of it, because that was something that we could do in the rehearsals.
Yeah.
We didn't really do that in the Theater 4 class necessarily. But, I mean, that was also because not every senior was in MDT, so not everybody sang, so you can involve the people who weren't.
Yeah.
But that was interesting because we had a quote unquote costume we were supposed to wear. So it had to be like jeans and a plain colored t-shirt. Didn't matter which color, it just had to be only one color and it couldn't have a graphic on it.
So lots of inside out shirts were worn.
Yes, a lot of inside out shirts were worn that day. I had a regular black t-shirt because obviously I did.
Yeah. I did not. I do now. I did not then. But let me tell you, I had Caitlin would do my hair since the show was set in the 1800s. She'd do my hair up in like a super fancy like bun. So trying to pull that shirt on and off without ruining the hair was like the most stressful thing. Also, speaking of hair and makeup and stuff, this is kind of, it's slightly a tangent, but I'm big on my red lipstick, right?
Mhm.
She told me, she was like, okay, Camille, this is set in the 1800s. They didn't really wear bright red lipstick back then, especially not a woman who is deep in mourning. So you have to wear a more natural colored lipstick. And I remember being so like, I was like, well, what if no? But what about no? But no. And I was just so devastated. I was like, because I'd always been able to get away with bright red lipstick every other show, because like when we were in Shakespeare and it was the steampunk thing, and the director was like, you can either do wacky eye makeup or bright lipstick, but you can't do both. And I was like, I'm gonna do both, and no one stopped me. Or like in the musical, it was like, this is not set in a time with bright red lipstick, keep it neutral. And I was like, I'm gonna wear bright red lipstick, and just no one stopped me. This was the first time anyone ever actually stopped me. And honestly, I think it's the one thing I resent Caitlin for.
Mhm.
But, so yeah, that's kind of a tangent, but I was thinking about hair, so I decided it had to be said.
Right. No, I get that, because, I mean, I didn't do any makeup for, like, any of my shows, really, because I was like, no.
Although if I remember correctly, your scene, the play that you directed, had like wacky fun makeup in it.
Yeah, Sam did our makeup.
Yeah.
So we had a good time there. because she was really good at makeup. I am not. But
Yeah.
the lead for our show had the most ridiculous, like, 1980s, like, a, like, pink prom dress. Just
Like,
ridiculous.
And that, with your show, since it was kind of like, it had that fantasy element, you were able to get away with that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. We had a good time. I really enjoyed my show senior year.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot of people have mixed feelings about Center Stage, but
Yeah.
it happens sometimes.
You know.
That's just how it is.
And that's just being in the theater department, I think. I think it's just...
Oh, yeah, mixed feelings about most things. I think that's how our theater department was ran. It was just like, I don't know how to feel about this.
And we've got several like subtopics on theater that I am sure we will get into, like casting, auditions, competition,
Our show,
the show.
Senior year.
Oh my gosh, yes.
The Western.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, yes. We will get into that eventually because, oh boy, I've got feelings about that still, and I wasn't even in it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm sure we'll get into all of that. We've got a wide variety of topics to choose from in theater, and I'm sure we will hit all of them eventually.
Oh yeah. But, you know, I guess, in conclusion, we have no idea about Center Stage. I don't know how to feel about it. I feel like I should hate it, but, like, I don't.
Same. We have no idea, in conclusion.
I mean, this has been a really fun discussion. Let's do it again, Camille.
That is kind of the point of this podcast, is that we do it again.
I would hope so. I mean, we did take, like, a 2-week break between this one and the last. I'm sorry. It was just, I kept putting it off. I was going to ask, and then I was like, but I'm so busy.
It's fun. We have no idea when these things are going to get uploaded. We have no real time frame because we're both procrastinators.
Yeah.
In
procrastinating
conclusion,
college student. We just try our best.
In conclusion, we have no idea when the podcast is going to get uploaded, but it will.
Sometime.
Eventually.
Hopefully soon. You're just going to upload it tonight?
Probably.
Cool.
Anyways, in conclusion, we have no idea. Join us next time, whenever that may be, when we will still have no
idea.